as we were examining where do we go from here, Chaos or Community, Dr. King's last book yesterday, we're in chaos. Mm. Is there a place to go from here?
I mean, if you look at where we are right now and put it against sort of the timeline of history, where do you think we are, Karen? I mean, do you feel like this is as bad an upheaval or as chaotic as, I don't know, civil rights struggle? Is this worse where we are right now, worse than what was happening during the civil rights struggle? Is it that we're just too close to it right now, that we're not able to see how impactful where we are right now is? I've been, kind of bandying that about.
I think it's worse. I'm gonna tell you what. No, we're not being hosed and lynched indiscriminately. There's, but I mean, I don't know. George Floyd was very similar to Emmett Till, and it was on camera. Like, so watching George Floyd made me know that George Floyd wasn't the first, second, or third person that man put his knee on the neck of. But we don't know those names. They're just dead. Right? We don't know those names. They're just dead. So Emmett Till, his mother opened the casket that was similar to George Floyd, where Daniela Frazier opened her camera. This shouldn't be happening in 2020, 2021, 2022. It shouldn't be happening in a country that supposedly moved so far ahead that elected a Black president. So I think it's worse in the sense that at least when my mother was getting hosed, when my mother couldn't sit at a lunch counter, when my grandmother couldn't vote in Augusta, Georgia, there was a community to go back to. My mother could go to Lucy Laney High School where her teachers were in her church, were in her neighborhood, where to this day, my mother just came back from Augusta a couple of weeks ago to meet with, her classmates who are all turning 80 this year. And they still keep in touch because they were part of a community that is unbroken. And they had their own restaurants and they had their own hotels. They knew where they could go. There was a strength. The bus boycott couldn't happen today because I got to get to work. I ain't walking for you. After a week, it would be over because the commitment to understanding what we're in. So we're like, because some of us have made it. We can see Black millionaires. We can see Black wealth. We can see people who are making it. So in our minds, it's not as dire. But I think it's worse because what we don't have is that central community. Talking to the NAACP today was great, but the NAACP of my mother's and grandmother's generation, that's Rosa Parks right there all day long. That's like, we go, what we gonna do? Oh, yes, today a man was lynched. That's Ida B. Wells. That's something else. And I feel like we don't have that because there's a lot of checks and a lot of people desiring fame.
And is it possible that it's, when during the civil rights struggle, we had a singular goal, there was a singular goal that was well laid out. It was that information was disseminated among the groups that needed it. It was everybody was marching forward to the beat of the same drum. And I think now this is part and parcel with social media, is that the messaging is so diluted because we're all, to your point about community, we've all sort of drawn in, we have our own little communities, and what's important to my community might not be as critically important as it is to another. And so I wonder if that has a role in what we're talking about.
All of it. We're scattered, which is why I love this gathering spot on Urban View. I love what we've built in Nubia Narrative. I love that, but again, for me, I keep asking, not asking, but saying we need to build a world in which we want to live. So I'm hopefully demonstrating that it's possible, right? So I feel like while it's worse, in my opinion, worse than it was during segregation, because at least we had each other, I feel like the trajectory of accomplishment is so much, can happen quicker if we all get it together. Do you know what I'm saying? Like where we are right now is worse, but it can overnight change and shift if because of technology and because the world is so tiny now, like we can, reach across the globe in seconds, the potential is there. I think we have great potential. Will we walk into that? I don't know. I'm hopeful though. I can't stop because I'm hopeful because, you want, just because I'm good. I feel like, when Fannie Lou Hamer says, until I'm free, you're not free either. I feel that way in my spirit. Like my individual success is nothing if everybody in my circle and beyond isn't good. Because who wants to celebrate and be joyful when people are unhoused, hungry, oppressed, battered? Who wants that when you can't send your cousin can't come visit you in LA and come home to teach and be a father? Like, how's that okay? Like, we should be okay. None of us should be okay if that is a condition in this country, and it is. So I just, all of that.
Do you think there needs to be one leader? I mean, that everybody can get behind. And if so, okay, so if it's not one leader, then is it multiple leaders? And how does the message, it's got to be, I feel like nowadays things need to be really clear and concise. People can only focus on whatever's right in front of them. So you come up with a really singularly important message delivered by, I don't know.
Everybody. There shouldn't be one leader. Everybody. There should be one message and everybody's a leader to make that message happen. So for me sitting here, it's like, okay, you live someplace. How's your neighborhood? Okay. It's not good. My neighborhood's not, don't get up and leave. What do you need to fix it? Now, if it's bringing in reinforcements, meaning let me call my cousins and stuff. I remember being in this building, and I talked about this all the time. There was this drug dealer that was openly selling drugs right in front of the building. And I'm like, no, excuse me, sir. Excuse me. You can't do that here. And, it was probably dangerous, but I'm 5'10". I've never felt physically, he was a big dude too, but I'm like, I can hold my weight. I'm good.
You're a hunter.
I'm a hunter, but I'm also 5'10", and can carry some weight. Rene Syler. I've never, and it's a privilege to be a woman that hasn't never felt physically, never feared for my physical safety. That is, and it also carries forth, I think, in the way that I carry myself in life, because I'm not worried about that. Like, I'm really not. But I went up and was like, excuse me, you can't do this here. And he was like, basically, and he vandalized my car. I was like, oh, you just must not know. No problem. Made an appointment, saw the police chief. And I was like, y'all need to police. This guy is selling drugs right now. He's selling drugs. Come do that. And they didn't. So I had everybody in my building call on a schedule. You call at 9, you call at 9:30, you call at 9:45, you call at 10, and we would just keep calling. And guess what, Rene? The police got tired of us calling. Homie got arrested, and boom, no problem. Neighborhood's back to normal. Wow. But it required that. And that's not activism. That's like, I live here. I'm not walking over a person nodding, and I'm not walking over your drugs. I'm not doing that. We're not doing that. So I confronted you, and I said, listen, I'm calling the police. You don't have to think about who did it. It's me. I'm calling the police. It's me. I'm doing it. Like, and I guess he didn't believe me, but I didn't do it alone. So that's where community comes in. I just knocked on everybody's door. I was the president of my association. Hello. This is what we're going to do. You call this, and everybody had their time. Call now. And I reminded them. And it only took like a day because police don't want to be bothered. And yes, I pay taxes here, but I'm not going to do it by myself. So I feel like, okay, there shouldn't be one leader telling people what to do. Everybody lives somewhere, and some place has their own challenges, right? So Baltimore has a water challenge, and so does Flint, and so does Jackson. They're not the same water challenge. So to say it's bad water, they each need a different solution. Only you know that in the place that you live. So what do you need in the places that you live? Is it the schools? Are the schools a problem? Run for school board. Let's go. Because I just voted in my community for school board. The person that won 1,900 votes, Rene Syler, in a community that's like over 70,000, 1,900 votes to get on the school board. I'm like, man, I got enough cousins to do that. Like, let's go.
Wow.
Y'all can round up 1,900 people to vote for you. Like, and but come in with an agenda. Like, what do you want changed in the schools?
Yeah.
So I feel like, we live in places and we're like zombies in these places because we feel like there's nothing we can do about it. It doesn't take much if you do it together. I grew up in a neighborhood that had a block association. And I remember, the meetings would rotate from house to house to house. And it was a way for us, first of all, to be involved with our neighbors every summer. For one day, the block would shut down. Miss Andrews would fry some fish. My mother would make a dish. Like everybody, we play kickball in the street. Like those things are gone now, unfortunately. But we can still have block associations. We can still understand and patrol the neighborhood. We knew that around the corner this kid was on drugs and he was doing some things. So the men in the community went and like talked to his mom because he didn't have a dad. Like it. That's the world that I come out of. So I imagine everybody lives somewhere. What do you need? And be the leader in that space that you can control. Sure. But we don't need, because I don't know who's the leader of the Jewish people. I can't give you a name, Rene Syler. Who's leading the Latinx folk? I'm doing that on purpose, Sarah Suckerby Sanders. Who's leading the Latinx folk? Who's their leader? I mean, and what does it mean to be Latinx? I mean, we're talking Colombian, we're talking Venezuelan, we're talking Puerto Rican, Dominican. They all are different. They got different needs. So like, what does that even look like? The Cubans in Florida are different than the Puerto Ricans in New York. Like there's not a Latin solution. So there's not a Latin leader. Everybody lives somewhere.
Yeah.
So fix your neighborhood.
Yeah, that's a great example of what you just said about, creating the world you want to live in. And that means doing what you did, which is you saw a problem. You said, I'm not going to put up with this. And I'm sure there are other people here in the building that also don't want to put up with this. So, and maybe some of them were like, oh, wow, this is such a pain, but, maybe he'll just go away. But it took one person to say, well, he will go away after I get done with him, and then you just kind of pull everybody together. I mean, nowadays, all you got to do is get everybody's cell phone number, you text,
right.
It's really not that difficult. It is about caring about where you are and where you live and what you want to see. So understood.